What if I told you there's a country sitting on one of the most strategically valuable pieces of real estate on the planet, and almost nobody is talking about it? A country with rainforests older than the Amazon, a semiconductor industry quietly powering your devices, and a geopolitical position that is China, the United States, and Europe watching closely. And somehow it keeps flying under the radar. That country is Malaysia. And once you start looking deeper, it completely changes how you see Southeast Asia. Most people think of Malaysia as beaches, skyscrapers, and street food. But that misses the bigger picture. Malaysia sits directly beside the Strait of Malacca, one of the world's most important maritime choke points. Roughly 40% of global trade passes through this narrow corridor. Oil from the Middle East, electronics from East Asia, manufactured goods from across the globe, all moving through one of the busiest shipping lanes on Earth. This isn't just geography. This is power. For decades, Malaysia has quietly positioned itself between global superpowers, maintaining relationships with China, the US, and Europe while avoiding total dependence on any single side. It has mastered the art of strategic neutrality. But in a world becoming increasingly divided, that balancing act is becoming harder. Every year, around 94,000 vessels pass through the Strait of Malacca. That's a continuous flow of trade critical to the economies of China, Japan, South Korea, and beyond. If this route were disrupted, the consequences would ripple across the global economy almost instantly. Malaysia controls a significant portion of this strategic coastline, yet its military capabilities remain limited. This creates a fascinating contradiction. Malaysia holds one of the world's most valuable corridors, but its security depends heavily on larger powers it carefully avoids aligning with too closely. And that's just the beginning. Malaysia is also a hidden force in global technology. While countries like Taiwan and South Korea dominate headlines, Malaysia has quietly become one of the world's top semiconductor exporters. Penang, often called the Silicon Valley of the East, has been a manufacturing hub for decades. Major companies like Intel, AMD, and Infineon have built crucial operations there. When pandemic lockdowns disrupted Malaysian chip production, global industries felt it. Car manufacturers slowed production. Electronic supply chains tightened. A single country's factory disruptions created worldwide consequences. Malaysia isn't just participating in the tech economy. It's deeply embedded in it. And as the US-China technology rivalry intensifies, Malaysia is increasingly pressured to choose strategic partners. But Malaysia continues doing what it does best, working with both sides. Then there's Malaysia's extraordinary environmental leverage. Its rainforests, particularly in Borneo, are among the oldest on Earth. These ecosystems are not only biodiversity treasures, they are becoming major geopolitical and economic assets in the age of climate negotiations and carbon markets. Standing forests now hold financial value. Carbon credits, conservation deals, and biodiversity agreements could transform Malaysia's ecological resources into enormous long-term economic leverage. But here lies another contradiction. Malaysia is also one of the world's largest palm oil producers, and decades of deforestation have already caused immense environmental loss. So Malaysia faces a defining question. Will it preserve these ancient ecosystems as strategic assets, or continue sacrificing them for short-term industrial gain? And then, of course, there's China. China has invested heavily in Malaysian infrastructure, ports, and transportation through Belt and Road projects. On paper, this offers growth. But it also raises concerns about sovereignty and long-term dependency. Malaysia has repeatedly pushed back against deals perceived as overly favorable to Beijing, only to later re-engage when economic realities demand it. This isn't simple weakness. It's strategic calculation. Malaysia understands that Chinese investment is too significant to ignore, but also too powerful to embrace without caution. That balancing act defines modern Malaysia. Nowhere is this tension clearer than in the South China Sea. Malaysia has territorial claims in waters increasingly contested by China's aggressive maritime expansion. Chinese vessels have entered areas Malaysia considers part of its own exclusive economic zone. Energy resources, shipping lanes, and national sovereignty are all at stake. Yet Malaysia's response remains measured, diplomatic, careful, because direct confrontation with China is unrealistic. So instead, Malaysia navigates through legal channels, regional alliances, and strategic patience. It is surviving by precision. Economically, Malaysia remains one of Southeast Asia's most intriguing success stories. With upper middle income status, strong infrastructure, widespread healthcare access, high literacy, and advanced industrial sectors, it has built a diversified economy that goes far beyond raw resources. This wasn't accidental. Malaysia industrialized strategically. It invested in manufacturing, logistics, education, and trade. But political instability and corruption have repeatedly threatened that progress. The 1MDB scandal became one of the largest financial corruption cases in modern history. Frequent political turnover has created uncertainty, and domestic instability often undermines Malaysia's otherwise impressive strategic advantages. This is Malaysia's defining paradox. It has extraordinary geographic, economic, and ecological advantages, yet repeatedly risks undermining itself through political inconsistency and conflicting priorities. Meanwhile, regional competition is intensifying. Vietnam is rapidly attracting manufacturing investment. Indonesia is leveraging its massive natural resource base for the electric vehicle revolution. Singapore continues dominating finance and innovation. Malaysia is under pressure from every direction. If it adapts successfully, it could emerge as one of the defining economic powers of Southeast Asia in the 2030s. If it fails, it risks being overshadowed by more aggressive neighbors. And this matters globally, because Malaysia is not some peripheral state. It is deeply integrated into the systems that power modern life. The chips in your electronics, the shipping routes that stabilize global prices, the forests influencing climate outcomes, the strategic waterways underpinning international trade. Malaysia's choices affect far more than Malaysia. So, here's the reality. Malaysia stands at a crossroads. One path leads toward becoming an indispensable global middle power, technologically advanced, environmentally strategic, and geopolitically essential. The other leads toward political instability, environmental decline, and strategic vulnerability. Both futures remain possible. And that's what makes Malaysia so fascinating. It may be one of the most underrated geopolitical players in the world today. Quietly powerful, deeply strategic, full of contradiction, and increasingly impossible to ignore. So the real question is, will Malaysia become one of Asia's greatest success stories, or one of its greatest missed opportunities? Because the answer won't just shape Southeast Asia. It may shape the future of global trade itself. So, I want to know what you think. Is Malaysia the most underrated country in geopolitics right now? Or is it a nation that keeps self-sabotaging at the worst possible moments? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely read them, and the debates in this community are always sharper than anything I see on cable news. If this opened your eyes to a story you weren't following, hit like. It genuinely helps more people find this. And if you want to go deeper on Southeast Asia's geopolitical chessboard, subscribe, because we're just getting started.